Welcome back to Nova Trail. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for Class 18. Today, we're exploring one of the most fascinating and fundamentally crucial topics in the elements of design. We are talking all about form. Let's dive right into this explainer because mastering this concept is going to completely change the way you look at your sketches. Let's kick things off with a pretty simple question. Imagine you draw a perfect circle on a flat piece of paper. Now grab a real football and put it right next to that drawing. They're both round, right? But are they the same thing? No, of course not. One is totally flat and the other is something you can pick up, spin around, and actually hold in your hands. That fundamental difference right there, that is exactly what we call form. Here is our roadmap for today's class. We'll cover shape versus form, the 2D to 3D transformation, form and fashion, soft versus structured forms, and then we'll wrap up with a quick revision and a practice quiz. Okay, Section 1, shape versus form, the difference between 2D flat and 3D solid. So, what exactly is form? By definition, form is a three-dimensional object. That means it doesn't just have length and width, it also brings in depth or thickness. In the simplest possible terms, a form is something you can physically touch. You can walk around it. It has volume. Think of everyday stuff, a bouncing ball, a cardboard box, your morning coffee cup. These are all forms. The contrast here is super clear. Shape is always flat. It's strictly two-dimensional, possessing only length and width. Think of a circle, a square, or a triangle drawn on a notepad. But the exact moment you take that shape and inject depth into it, it instantly transforms. It becomes a form. It becomes 3D. So if you remember anything, remember the simple rule. Shape is flat and form is solid. Moving right along to Section 2, the 2D to 3D transformation, or adding depth. Let's think about that flat circle again. Just a 2D shape. When you give it depth, it becomes a sphere, kind of like a globe or a bouncy ball. Now consider a square, a flat four-cornered shape. Add depth to that, and boom, it transforms into a cube, like playing dice or a shipping box. It's honestly like magic, isn't it? Shape plus depth equals form. Now for the really fun stuff. Section 3, form and fashion, taking a 2D sketch to a 3D garment. When you design a garment, where does it start? Well, it starts as a flat 2D sketch. But here's the thing. Nobody wears a piece of paper. The true magic happens when that design is cut into fabric, stitched together, and finally worn. Through that process, it literally stops being a 2D sketch and becomes a living 3D form, complete with its very own unique volume and structure. A truly great designer is constantly thinking about both states, how it looks flat on the page and how it will exist as a 3D form in reality. And we absolutely can't talk about fashion without talking about the human body. Our bodies are 3D forms too. We've got curves, volume, and depth. So when we create a garment, that garment's form has to interact flawlessly with the body form. This is exactly why pattern making involves measurements and darts. We're literally manipulating flat fabric so it molds perfectly to a 3D human form. And remember, because it's 3D, your garment has to look just as incredible from the side as it does from the front. To master garment form, you really need to understand its three main pillars. First up is volume. This is all about fullness. Imagine a dramatically gathered skirt or a massive puffed sleeve. Second is structure. This is about firmness, about holding a shape, like a really sharp blazer with strong shoulder padding. Third is the silhouette. This is the overall external outline of the garment, like an A-line shape or a sleek, straight dress. Together, volume, structure, and silhouette dictate the final 3D look of your design. Which brings us to Section 4, soft versus structured forms, and how they set the mood. Soft form is all about natural drape. It uses the fabric's inherent ability to just flow with the body's movement. Think of a gorgeous chiffon dress. It feels romantic, elegant, relaxed. There's zero stiffness there. On the flip side, we have structured form. This relies on firm fabrics, heavy linings or interfacing to create a very defined, rigid shape. Think of that tailored blazer again. It's sharp, bold, totally professional. You could take the exact same basic design, and it will give off an entirely different vibe depending on whether you execute it as a soft form or a structured form. Let's put this into perspective with some practical examples. First, picture a ball gown. That right there is a masterclass in volume, creating this massive, dramatic form. Now think of a sheath dress. This has basically no extra volume. It fits tightly, closely following the natural form of the wearer's body. And finally, consider an oversized jacket. This one is super interesting because it combines high volume with bold structure to create a really boxy, fashion-forward form. The takeaway here is that every garment's form is intentionally chosen to serve a specific design purpose. All right, let's consolidate everything in Section 5, a quick revision of our key takeaways. Here are the crucial rules to lock into your memory from today's explainer. 1. Form is a 3D solid object, while shape is just flat and 2D. 2. Adding depth is what magically turns a flat circle into a 3D sphere. 3. Garments are essentially 3D forms engineered to fit the human body. 4. Garment form always relies on a mix of volume, structure, and silhouette. And 5. Soft forms give you that beautiful, flowy drape, while structured forms give you firmness and sharp definition. Finally, Section 6, a quick practice quiz to really test your knowledge. I want you to grab your notebooks right now. Take a look at these 5 questions, write down your answers, and hey, drop them in the comments below. It's honestly the best way to make sure this knowledge sticks. Can you define form? Can you explain its role in fashion? I absolutely know you can. And that wraps up our explainer on form. I want to leave you with a bit of a challenge. Never look at a flat drawing the same way again. Seriously, whenever you're sketching, I want you constantly visualizing how that design will move, breathe, and exist as a real 3D creation. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to subscribe to Nova Trail so you don't miss our next Elements of Design class. Keep practicing, keep sketching, and above all, keep designing. See you next time.